Hello my friends, welcome back to my channel. Time for a new video and also for a new tool that I discovered some time ago and which I have started to use relatively regularly now. And this tool is freeware, which is even better. It's called QSimPlanner and it is an open source fuel and load kind of planner software. It's in its version 0.4.6, so sounds like there is still some way to go until a 1.0 release. I'm not sure if the developer is still working on it, but yeah, I think it has really good functions, and there are some practical things about it that I'm going to show you. So we're first going to look at the software itself, and then I'm going to also give you some hints about the installation. It is easy, but there are some interesting facts you should know about the installation and how you can configure some stuff. I will show you that at the end of the video. First, let's go and start QSimPlanner. I have got this shortcut here on my desktop. When I press the button, QSimPlanner starts up. And here it is. And yes, it's how should I put it? It will not win any prizes on beauty, but it's the functionality we're after, not the beauty. So what you see here is a list of aircraft types, and you can create your own. Okay, I'm not quite sure. There is no manual, at least none that. Well, there is some stuff on the website and so on, but actually I didn't need a manual really, because it was so easy, or relatively easy. So when you press manual here, you will get into this and it will explain some of the functionality, but it worked out of the box. Okay, so if you press manual, you will be asked to start the browser, and it will bring you into the manual pages. So it's not that there isn't a manual, but it is very, let's say, down to the facts. It's just about enough to understand what the functionality is about. But to tell you the truth, it isn't actually that difficult. So I actually didn't need it. I didn't look once into it, and I could really understand what this thing is doing. So I'm going to show you. Let's assume we want to go with an A319. Okay, so I select the A319 that I have here. By the way, you can edit the profiles. Okay, you can define what aircraft type, then you can give it its own registration, and then you can make some, let's say, modifications by using profiles that the developer has created for an Airbus A319 and so on. What I don't know is if there is a way of creating your own and also adding aircraft. That I'm not sure about yet. I'm trying to understand if that is possible and where it's stored. But for the moment, this is not really, it's not really important to me, because it has all the aircraft types that I would need. It's Airbuses up to A320, A321. There isn't an A330 yet. Then 737 from the 600 to the 900, 747, 400 and 400F, the Dash 8, the 777 and the 787. And I'm pretty sure that there is a way to add more, but for the moment, this actually covers the range of prepared aircraft and also the range basically of a lot of the X-plane aircraft. So you can use this on both. I have it installed now on all my simulator PCs, on my two, better to say, and I use it quite regularly, and I will show you what I use the most. When I go to fuel, now I can select my A319 here. Okay, so it puts in the registration. The weight unit is kilograms in my case. You can switch this to pound. And then it brings in the operate OEW. Okay, it's something like the empty weight. I don't know what the O is for at the moment. And what you can do here is you can actually change the payload. So it will allow you to change the payload, and it will calculate from the absolute empty weight to the so-called zero fuel weight, which is practically the OEW, operational empty weight or something, plus the payload will give you the zero fuel weight. So that's the weight without the fuel. You haven't added fuel to that yet. Okay, that will come on top. All right, now to the function that I use a lot, and that is I need a flight plan. Okay, so what do? Let's assume we want to fly from Hamburg, I had this recently, to Bravo India Kilo Foxtrot, which is Reykjavik on Iceland. What it does already is it puts in here some runway. And as far as I understand, it when you start up, it gets the latest winds from probably some servers. So it knows already what if you're flying online, for example, and if you really use online weather, it would already know what your winds are, and it would pick a runway for you. You can change this, and no problem, yeah. But let's assume that that's correct. Actually, when we did this, we departed from runway 33 in Hamburg, and we arrived actually in Keflavik at... did I say Reykjavik before? It's Keflavik actually, on runway 10. And look at that. It actually offers you stars and SIDS for the two airports, because this little program contains a Navigraph, or it could be a Nav Data Pro. It's probably an Aerosoft data set. And you can actually, if you own one of the two, then the Aerosoft Nav Data Pro or the Navigraph subscription, you can actually link current data, the current ERAC, to this program. And I can show you how to do this at the end of the video. You can do some filtering. You can blacklist certain departures and so on. It's amazing. You can go to advanced tool, and then you can get some more advanced search functionalities. Now, I hardly ever use this, okay, because this is so easy, and it's quite easy to do. You can play with that. You can also exclude certain countries for your route. So if you do not want to fly, let's say, if we fly, well, let's assume we're flying to Iceland from Germany. We would normally fly over the UK. Let's see. I haven't actually tried that yet. That's Ukraine. Oh, that's probably Britain. Okay. Let's try Great Britain here. Country name. G. Oh. And let's see. That's an interesting, actually I haven't used that yet. No, it's not Great Britain. Let's see. UK Virgin Islands, Ukraine, United Kingdom, EG. EG? Really? Oh, EG for the ICAO code letter. Oh, I see now. Okay, I was on the wrong. Okay, let's assume we don't want to fly over the UK. Oh, it's interesting to see what it comes up with. And then it says find a route. Now, the question would be, is this a route that actually does not go over the United Kingdom? You got me interested now. So this is how I make videos, you know. There is no real script. I kind of run through it as it comes. Kind of a live show, but different. Let's see if that worked, because I tell you, this is really a nice little tool. I really like it. So let's do this. I'm going to replace this, and I say read route description, create flight plan, and look at that. Look at that. It has actually avoided the United Kingdom, because the routing that I had before went directly over the is that the Shetlands or the Orkneys? It went through here. Okay, it didn't do this strange little thingy. So it can actually create flight plans that filter out certain countries if you want your routing not to go over that country. Now, don't ask me why I would do this in the simulator, but it's an interesting option. And here you saw me trying it out for the first time. And it also puts in your automatically found SID and star. Okay, you can analyze the route. It would check against some criteria that I don't know which they are. Oh yeah, and there's this show map. I forgot about that actually. It pulls up this map display, and so I could have done this actually much easier. I actually forgot that we can look at maps. I hardly ever use this map feature because usually I just cut and paste my route string and then I go into my usual tools and put it in there. And presto, you have a route. Everything's fine. So how do I get out of this here? Ah, okay, it's a separate window. Right. And then you can export it. And look at that. Okay, you can export it into, let's see, P3D version 4. So it directly puts it into the usual folder. If you own an Aerosoft Airbus, you can export it for P3D version 4, for example. That's the X-plane stuff, so you can do something for the flight factor. You have to find, I don't have X-plane on this one here, flight factor A320, FS9, FSX. FSX is actually quite practical because some tools cannot read the newer P3D file formats. There are some issues at times. So I always also export the flight plan in that way. Then there's the iFly stuff, there's a jar design. So it's for both worlds, for X-plane and for FSX prepared, okay? Wind uplink, very interesting. So if you have any of the PMDG airplanes that do wind uplink data, which is the 747, the 777, and I'm not sure, 777, 747, I think that's the two, isn't it? The NGX doesn't do wind updates or uplinks as far as I remember, so it's probably the two, yeah, I guess. You can actually get the wind data written here into this folder, and the FMC would pick it up from here. How about that, huh? And then there's some X-plane weather. I'm not sure how it does that. X-plane flight plan, sorry. It puts it then not here, obviously. It would put it somewhere else, but because we don't have X-plane here, the path it would be wrong. But this is standard X-plane FMS file format. Right? And here you can define where your simulators are. You go here and you define where your simulator is. Right. So that's the export option. And here you got it. Your route, it's a distance of 1,245 nautical miles. All right. This is actually a not so optimal route. So it actually calculates that we have extended our route by using this option of leaving out the United Kingdom. We have extended our route by about 6.3%, which will reflect itself in the fuel that we are going to use. Now, you can also enable an alternate. The alternate, well, what could we use? We could use select alternate for, oh, look, it actually gives us some options on the way, I suppose. So let's assume Glasgow, so that we go back to the UK. Again, it will look at the current winds and will suggest the runway. And you can also say, find me a route there. Okay. Now, the route obviously is, it doesn't make sense really to have a SID and a star, because that would be in flight. In order to use the alternate, I would not go for the whole route, but this offers you the route to it, so you can actually Oh no, this is actually the way back, but from Reykjavik, I suppose, or what? That's a bit confusing, but I think what they calculated is if you're somewhere here along, this is the route back. Why we do have to go to Norway first, I don't know. So it may not be perfect, this option, but possibly I would do a direct then here. And you can add more alternates, by the way. You can get yourself a set of alternates, especially when you fly over the Atlantic. You could actually put in all the possible alternates depending on where you are on the route over the Atlantic. That will change, ETOPS and stuff like that. Fuel parameters. You can define that the APU is to run for 30 minutes, that there will be a 20 minutes taxi time. You can change this, obviously. You can actually say, like on world flight, I would normally have minimum, the final reserve is for me is always 60 minutes, for example. Or holding time. If I know that there will be holding, I will put in, let's say, 30 minutes of holding. And on something like world flight, I would probably add another 60 minutes. Another, let's say, with the 737, probably another 2 tons, which is roughly an hour of extra time. And then I would say calculate. Oh, the alternate route, yeah. So let's get rid of this and find the route. Well, okay. Calculate. So because we have to go back probably so far, apart from the fact that we don't normally would fly to Norway first before we fly down to Scotland. But even if we take this, what it says is the trip time needs a fuel with the A319 of 7 tons. It's a 3-hour flight. Contingency is 353, that's 9 minutes. Holding time, 30 minutes, is about a ton. Extra time of, or extra fuel of 2 tons gives me almost an hour. The alternate, we would need another 6 tons to go to the alternate, probably a bit less. The final reserve, I've defined the final reserve to be 1 hour, but that depends on the airline, what they require you to have. But 30 minutes is the absolute minimum that you need, and you better not come to the point where you use the final reserve. It's not there to be used. It's there to be safe, but if you use it, you will have to probably answer some tough questions by your airline. At takeoff, that means we would have to carry 18 tons of fuel. I'm not even sure what the A319 can hold, but I think that can be put in, depending on the weight, on the so-called zero fuel weight and the payload. Yeah, I'm actually not sure if it would detect that we are too heavy. But anyway, so this is the fuel calculation, and that's it. Okay. Then next step is to go to the takeoff calculation. So for the takeoff calculation, you can pull the takeoff airport by pressing this button. Runway 23, available length. It gives you information about the airport. That's what it uses the ARAC data for. Available length 3,250 meters. Elevation is 43 feet. Heading 228. Slope, well, we don't really do slopes in the simulator normally. And you could actually re-download the meta. Okay, then it would get the actual current winds. Very, very handy. You can view this. So here's your meta for Echo Delta Delta Hotel, which is Hamburg, 250 with 10 knots and so on. That's why we will probably or should normally take off from runway 23. That's not necessarily the runway that you're going to take off from, because ATC might decide otherwise. We have 7 degrees and we have a pressure quite low of 987. The runway surface is dry. All right. And then here's some more information. It's the did I not say I wanted to A319? Okay. The total, the takeoff weight, anyway, I think this is the actual takeoff weight. How much would that now be? Let's go back to the fuel. 47,961 was the zero fuel weight. So, and with 47 for 57, 67. Let's say 68,000. Okay, kilograms. Let's assume it's. Oh no, hang on. What happens if I do? When I do request, I get actually the value from the previous. I forgot about that. That's even easier. You can decide what thrust rating. Now, in this case, there is only this one option: takeoff, flaps, 1 plus F, anti-ice, only engines or engine and wings, and then the packs are on. Okay, and then you press calculate, and what it gives you now is the outside temperature of 7 degrees, required distance is 1,717 meters, which will leave you another 1,533 meters. Now, what you can do here in this table is you can pick an assumed temperature, which is not the one that we have in reality. In reality, we have 7 degrees, OAT is the outside air temperature. I could decide to derate my takeoff, let's say, by putting in 44 degrees. In the Airbus, you can do that as well. Which would mean that with 44 degrees, the required distance I think there is a little I'm a bit confused now, because assumed temperature, I would think that the required distance would grow if you put in a higher temperature, because the higher you put the assumed temperature, the less your engine revs are, so the power is less, because that's the idea of not using the engines fully. And I guess these two columns, I've actually never realized that, but now that I read it, this is the required distance. I would expect it to actually grow, and the runway remaining would get less. So I have a feeling that this is actually swapped. I never actually saw this. I just assumed that this is the distance remaining. So this might be a simple problem here with the headlines, okay? But it makes sense that the higher I put the temperature, the less runway I have left, okay? And I can decide now until what remaining runway length I don't feel comfortable. And well, this would still probably work. In Hamburg, we have a very long runway, and therefore 67 could work as well, which means that we would use about 2.1 kilometers of the available 3.2 kilometers. Right. So gives you this nice calculation, and then you can put it into the FMC of your computer. Landing is very similar. So I go here, I can actually download the latest meta. So that would happen a bit later than about 3 hours later, when I get closer to Keflavik. And if the winds are still for runway 10, let's assume. So available length, actually Keflavik has been, I think, given to the Icelandic people by the United States. And they had this military airport, basically. That's why the runways are quite long. There are 10,000 feet in both runways, and there are two. One is facing south-north, the other one west-east, east-west. And they were really, really long, which means that Keflavik can be flown to by practically any type of aircraft, from the 747-8 down to a small piston engine. Reykjavik has a very small airport. It is quite close to the city of Reykjavik, but It's so small, it's not for those larger planes. So Keflavik is about, I'm not sure how long you drive actually, but I would say half an hour at least away from Reykjavik. And it's suitable for all the large airliners that are available. So we have available length of 3065, elevation is 109, that's always handy to have. The heading is 104, it's also handy to have during flight basically. And yeah, let's check that we have the right aircraft. I can request this again. No, cannot. A319. So use predicted landing fuel. So I say request and it puts in what approximately we should have by taking the overall fuel figure and taking away the projected fuel for the trip. So it was, I think, 7 point something tons for the trip. So it reduced the 66 tons to about 59 tons of landing weight under normal circumstances. You can change this if reality is different in your case. Flaps 3 in the case of an Airbus, or flaps full, both would be possible. Thrust reverses, I would use both reverses. I might not need to do this on this long runway. And the braking, let's say we use the low braking, up speed increase 5 knots. I'm not sure what that is, but anyway, so here's the wind. Currently, wind from 100 at 8. OAT, so the outside temperature is 2 degrees. Pressure is 1010. It's a bit higher than in Hamburg. And the runway surface is dry. Okay, you can again look at the meta here. And here we can see these values. Right, so if I press calculate, what it gives you is for the Airbus, right? If you have low braking action, the landing distance will be 1,717 meters, and there will be 1,300, and I think this is the same. This is the same wrong heading or headline, because again, the higher. Oh, no, this is actually correct. This is correct. Disregard. So the higher the brake setting in this case, the less runway you need, landing distance, and the more runway remains. So here it is correct. Okay. Now let's assume we are in a Boeing. So let's use a Boeing 737-100. Oh, yeah. B737-800. And let's do calculate. What it does for you is, if you use max manual braking, you can actually stop in about 800 meters. If you use max auto, you can stop in about a kilometer. If you use auto brake 3, 1,400, auto brake 2, okay. And here this changes now depending on the aircraft that you have. It will calculate anyway. It will give you the braking options that belong to the particular aircraft type. This is absolutely fantastic. And that's all I need really for an approach, right? Okay, so that's these three. These are the main ones. And then there are some nice tidbits. For example, you can, for every airport that you have here on your route, and also other ones, just enter your ICAO, you get the current weather, you get some chart, you get some list of runways with its lengths and ILS course and ILS frequency, everything up to date. You know, this is Fuhlspittel here. So let's go to Keflavik. Keflavik here. You see this is a huge airport actually that the Americans left the Icelandic people for free, basically. So not bad. Again, all the information. Tracks. You get North Atlantic tracks, Pacific, and what were they called? So these are the Pacific tracks, the North Atlantic tracks, and these are, I'm not sure where they are, but anyway, you can enable or disable them and then you can go and view the text. You can download them all, you can save them, you can import them from a file. And they give you the current North Atlantic tracks. So if you plan to do some flight over the Atlantic, for example, with even with VATSIM or Iveo, if they are online and if they do Atlantic operations, then here you can get your NAT tracks directly from here and then use them for your briefing and for your flight planning. The winds aloft. So you say download, it will download the latest winds from somewhere. Don't ask me where. And when you say save wind data, there is this file. You can actually save this wind data for later use. And I think, because you can load them again, and I think it will write them into the weather file for the PMDG aircraft, from where they can pick it up. Okay. And that's it. So very, very handy set of functions. I really like that tool. When I first loaded it, I kind of, well, it looks a bit odd, but I learned to love it actually, because it is so easy to do the few kind of route briefing and load briefing and fuel briefing things at the beginning. It's very quick. You get everything you need to be finished with your briefing, and you get on your merry way with your flight, right? So there are some options. Let me quickly show you that to you. First of all, there's your Nav Data Location. Now there is a default location which I don't use, but there is another way, and I'm going to show you in a moment. I'm actually on an ARAC 1813, but if you install the program out of the box, you will get some 2017, I think. Is it 05? 1705, I think, has been given with. Okay, this is already. How can this be expired? How can this be expired? Because this is actually the current one. Anyway, you can say download tracks at startup. That's the NAT tracks. I wouldn't put this on. Download upper winds at startup. Yep, that is okay. Ask before closing application. Simulator path, you put wherever you have your simulators installed, X-Plane and FSX and prepared, whatever. Use wind optimized routes. So it would try and calculate your route also depending on the winds, on the prevailing winds, and hide the direct in route output, because not all programs can deal with a DCT between individual waypoints. I prefer to have this turned off, but you can turn it on here. And for the tracks, for the NAT tracks and so on, you can show the ident only. I'm actually not sure what that does. And you can check for updates automatically. I turn this usually off because I don't want software to continuously check for updates. I will check myself in this case because I can do that here. All right. And that's it. Manual brings you to this page I've shown you before, and you are done. Really nice stuff. Now, for your installation, let me show you this quickly. First of all, let's go to the web page. It's https QSimPlan.wordpress.com. You're here. You can browse a little bit through the pages, but the decisive part is downloads. Get yourself the Windows installer. If you're sort of a more hardcore Windows guy and or computer guy, and you know what the portable version is, by all means download it. It's basically an unpacked version of. But if you would like to use it out of the box, use the Windows installer, download it. It's a setup exe, execute it, and it will put the software into, and here comes now one of the problems that I had with it, into some folder that I don't really want software to be in. Okay, so very easy, and then you can start using it. There's a desktop shortcut it creates. It doesn't ask you for a path, unfortunately. Usually I would like to tell it where to install it. It just unloads it into some folder where I personally don't want to have it. Okay, but you do not need to worry about that. You can use this. Right. So that's it, and you're done basically. I don't want to show you this because I have it already installed. Now that's the thing. When you run the installer, what it does is it unpacks everything under your system drive, C most likely, users, whatever your username is, app data, and you need to go there by manually entering app data here in the path, okay? Because usually app data is hidden from you, so you wouldn't see it. You can enter it though. And in app data, local QSimPlanner, and then 0.4.6. No, actually it's QSimPlanner. Let's go out here. So this is actually the folder, QSimPlanner, under your users, C users, your username, app data, local QSimPlanner. And here's everything that you need. It has the launcher, and it usually creates a desktop shortcut for you called QSimPlanner, right? And there's another folder here. It's called Nav Data. And there is this original set of, it's 1705. It's an Aerosoft Nav Data Pro set, but you can replace it with Navigraph. It's absolutely no problem. If you don't have the Aerosoft Nav Data Pro, you use the Navigraph. And what you actually use is the Airbus Navigraph. Okay, or the Airbus Nav Data Pro for the Aerosoft Airbus, I mean. So if you have a subscription with Navigraph or with Nav Data Pro, no problem. You select the set that you use also for the Aerosoft Airbus. And you do this by just replacing what's in this Nav Data folder, and then you're up to date with your data. Or you do it like me, and I show you now how I have done it. First thing I did is I went to local. I used the cut and paste feature to take the QSimPlanner folder and copy it to where I really want it, and which is in the SimTools in my case. Okay, you don't have to do it like this. See SimTools, and I just unpacked it here, right? And watch this. I don't have the nav data folder. I deleted it because it's old navigation data. I'm not really interested in it. And I didn't want to tweak FMS Data Manager from Navigraph to put the data in here. So what I did is the Aerosoft stuff is actually put in your Documents folder, Aerosoft. Go to your Documents, Aerosoft, General, and there you have it. If you're like me and you have Navigraph, Navigraph is your most current ARAC data, take it. If you are an Aerosoft guy with Nav Data Pro, take this folder. And what do you do? Very, very simple. Right-click, create shortcut, rename it maybe, because I hate this shortcut crap here at the end. Okay, and then take this and put it where I did put it. Hang on, let's go back to where we were in the QSimPlanner. Put it here. Just move the shortcut here. That's all you need to do. It will automatically pick this up when you go into your options. Nav data. If you click here, okay, and you usually go to your SimTools. You can do it either directly or you do it indirectly like me, and you select this, and that will bring you to where Aerosoft puts or Navigraph puts the Aerosoft data. And that's it. Done. It will detect it's 1813. Okay, it says it's expired, but not to worry about that. It works anyway. You say save, and you're done. But you do not have to do all of this. You can use the program as it is with slightly outdated data, and you will not really see a big problem here, because I'm not sure how it does the routes, but I'm pretty sure that the ARAC of 1705 will be nice to use anyway, if it's just for calculations purposes. If you want more accurate flight plans, you may need to maybe update your navigation data, but that is just up to you, and it depends a little bit on whether or not you have subscriptions and you have also the money to have Navigraph, because they're not exactly cheap. It's 80 euro or more than 80 euro a year. I know people say, but that's not a lot of money. But guys, I read this quite often in some comments and stuff. Yeah, it might not look expensive to you, but there are a lot of simmers out there, either because they're very young and they don't have really an income, or there is just the unfortunate situation that you do not have an income, you cannot afford expensive things like Navigraph. Okay, so you do not need to have a Navigraph subscription or a Nav Data Pro subscription or whatever in order to use this. As it comes, it works fine, and it does what I showed you, and you will be happy with it, I think. Okay, so that's about it. 40 minutes. I hurried up. I hope I gave enough information about the program in a fast and not too blubbery way. I know I had the odd video where I was kind of digressing a little bit, talking a bit too much about other things. And this is actually feedback, and I wanted to put this at the end of this video. I do not mind you criticizing my videos, okay? I also do not mind if you give me a thumbs down. But what I really like to ask is, please explain. Explain, and explain in a way that I understand, and not just bad video or boring or something like that, because that doesn't help me to get better, okay? I do make mistakes myself. Sometimes I get carried away. That's just the way it is. So just go and give me constructive criticism for me to make it better the next time, right? So I hope that the 40 minutes is not too long, because there was a lot to be shown, and I did it really quick. So probably there's someone there saying, no, why did you do it so quick? Yeah, well, there we go. If you have questions, you can leave them in the comments, or you can come maybe to my Discord if you want, and I can try and help you maybe with it. But I think the software is easy enough to be used out of the box very quickly. That's it. The link will be in the show notes, and I wish you all a nice weekend. It's actually Sunday here, Sunday morning, when I do this, and until next time.